morning, angels.
Good morning, Charlie.
They're private eyes who are easy on the eyes in Charlie's Angels, one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Richard Roeper, columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Charlie's Angels. And watching this movie is like watching your favorite relative with a lampshade on his head. I like Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu. I like their work. I like their looks. I like them, but not in this movie where sheer lunacy overtakes them and they make ridiculous spectacles out of themselves. It's nonstop, brainless action, a jiggle show where 3 babe detectives take orders from the disembodied voice of Charlie and carry out a hunt for a kidnapped millionaire. This is the typical scene from the movie repeated over and over. Something blows up real good, and the angels fly through the air, getting real bad smudges on their makeup. Sometimes they survive stunts even James Bond wouldn't try. Bill Murray is the Angels' best pal, and Tim Curry is a suspect.
Blowfish? Isn't that poisonous?
It's a rare delicacy for the man who has no fear of an excruciating death.
Charlie's Angels is a movie almost tailor-made for those campus town brew and view type theaters where pitchers of beer are rushed to the audience during the screening. It's the kind of movie they'd like on Wayne's World. But in the cold light of day, it's empty and noisy and relentless. I can imagine a good satire that combined the Bond pictures and the Charlie's Angel TV series, but this movie goes through those motions without wit or originality or joy. It's expensive and elaborate, but it's not fun, and I'm not even going to get into whether it makes the angels into sex objects, because of course it does, but in a better movie, I wouldn't have minded.
Of all the bad movies that have been made from bad TV shows, this may be the worst, and that's saying a lot. You mentioned it as a jiggle show. You know what? Make it a jiggle movie. Have it rated R and just be what you are. Instead, they kind of hedge their bets. It's, you know, the characters are into martial arts. They don't use guns. Drew Barrymore is lisping her way, and she's telling these people, I'm going to kick your butt, and you're not believing it for 1 second. They make a huge mistake at the end of this terrible movie by showing a gag reel at the end, showing the actual actresses stumbling through the stunts, which confirms our suspicions that they didn't do all those stunts. So what we watch for 90 minutes is a big stunt show with a lot of explosion and then some really bad, cheesy dialogue from actresses who look like they'd rather be somebody anywhere else.
We knew they didn't do the stunts, but I mean, those scenes where they're lifted up by the explosion, thrown through the air, land against the windshield of the car, a little smudge here, a little smudge there. You know, Drew Barrymore is so good. Well, they're all so good. They've been so good
for this
in
movie.
So many different... This is just an ill-conceived project from the beginning. It's just, it's not a good idea. They didn't have any rationale for the approach they were going to take.
Right.
They didn't make it funny. It's not entertaining. It's a dead zone.
Is it a comedy? Is it a camp movie? Is it an action thriller? What's Bill Murray doing? It was really a bomb. Okay, our next movie is Loving Jezebel. This is a self-conscious modern romance about a curiously nerdy young stud who doesn't have the willpower to resist other men's women. Hill Harper plays Theodorus Melville. He's a dorky mama's boy who rambles on like a talking Hallmark card, but he has some kind of hypnotic effect on a series of great-looking but nearly brain-dead women.
That's what I know about jazz. Jazz is love, it's life. That's jazz.
Do you like John Coltrane?
Don't even get me started on the train.
Dun dun
Dun dun dun dun dun dun dun.
All right, pick me up at 8.
Sandrine Holt plays Mona, another sexy oddball. She's dating Theo's friend, but she longs for Theo.
Of course, I'd show you my HIV negative certificate. We'd go to Trinity, we'd have carnival babies, and lead a beautifully eccentric yet traditional existence because you have this face I would love to see every single day.
It'd be like Pretty Woman or something.
Almost precisely.
Yeah, we'd have our own banana tree.
I'm still not sure what Trinidad and banana trees have to do with Pretty Woman, but in any case, Theo finally falls in love with a married woman.
I just want to be like one of the goofy brothers that pop up in the J. Crew catalog from time to time, wearing khakis, walking down a beach, holding hands with a woman who I love.
That romance feels contrived, and so do Theo's other relationships. The women he hooks up with aren't really Jezebels, they're daffy beauties with troubled personalities. Take that girl Theo meets in college. First she tells Theo she's repulsed by the act of kissing, then she claims to be a virgin, then she jumps Theo, then months later she admits she had a boyfriend all along and she's been sleeping with that boyfriend too. Yet when she shows up at Theo's apartment a few years later, he takes her back when he should be calling the police. Loving Jezebel is the most annoying look at sexual relationships I've seen since Body Shots.
Well, I guess I liked it a little more than you did, although certainly not enough to recommend it, but I thought Hill Harper had a really engaging personality. The only problem is that the movie never really deals with any of the relationships. It's more like, once again, a babe show. A swimsuit issue where he just kind of goes through the girls one at a time, and they look great. There's one woman in this movie named Lisa Aya Trinier, who plays the ballerina,
the dancer,
who is a major babe. I think she could be a Bond girl, I'm telling you. I think they could have done more with her, or at least they could have listed her in the credits anyway, you know, because...
Roger, there are many major babes in this movie,
but
we don't see... I don't agree with you that he's got an engaging personality. We don't see why these women are attracted to him. I don't see what's so great about this guy.
He's got an engaging personality. The screenwriter is not giving him dialogue that could have been a little smarter. He does sign. You're quite right. He sounds like a Hallmark card a lot of the time.
He seems like a really lucky guy to me.
These girls shouldn't fall for this stuff.
Not at all.
Okay, later in the show, Matt Damon, Will Smith, and Charlize Theron in Robert Redford's new film, The Legend of Bagger Vance. Coming up next, Adam Garcia wants to put on a show in Bootmen.
Put these on. I want to see if you're in form.
A steelworker screws metal plates onto his work boots and bangs out a macho tap number there in Bootmen, a new dance movie from Australia. That was Adam Garcia from Coyote Ugly as the would-be dancer who convinces his co-workers at the mill to join in his dream of an industrial-strength dance company, and it was Andrew Kaluski as one of the troupe members. Earlier in the film, the cocky Garcia auditions for a famous choreographer.
Okay, 5, 6, 7, and... Stop! 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 Why would I hire you if you can't follow a simple direction?
Because I'm bloody good.
That's Andrew Doyle as the choreographer. The movie is based on a hard hat dance review by its director, Dean Perry, who in ancient musical tradition builds up to the big dance number. The dancers in Bootmen are more macho than rugby players, and some of the numbers have real life and energy, but maybe they should have been used in a concert film of Perry's original stage production of Tap Dogs, because Bootmen is cluttered up with all the usual musical movie cliches, from the unplanned pregnancy, to the trouble finding a venue, to the determination to put on a show, to, of course, the father who opposes his son's dream but turns up late at the concert and is proud after all. And you get a big close-up of him with this kind of change of spirit on his face there. Plus, there was so much banging that the cast album of this movie must sound like they went out to the kitchen and rattled those pots and pans. I know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there are some things to like in this movie. I like these dancers. Adam Garcia's got a lot of appeal, but it's just so ridiculous. Too many cliches. And, you know, you get to that big dance number at the end, they do one number, and then they get called back for an encore. So I'm thinking those people, what'd they see, about a 14-minute dance show? You think they'd want their money back after that. And just too many cliches, one piled after another. Nothing new or fresh in here. No real reason to make the movie.
What I couldn't get around was the idea of banging on steel plates. I mean, I realize
I must be
hopelessly...
It's like stomp or blast.
Hopelessly out of touch, you know, but it just seemed to me like after a while, this would be a musical number in a larger show. Or this would be an effect. But it wouldn't be the whole evening, would it? Or would it?
Well, it might be a long evening if that's all they did. We may have exhausted the men dancing genre for a while after the Full Monty and Billy Elliot. This is like Billy Elliot on steroids. Enough with the men dancing for a while.
Coming up next, Will Smith gives lessons in golf and life to Matt Damon in The Legend of Bagger Vance.
The trick is to find your swing.
What did you say?
Well, you lost your swing. We got to go find it.
Matt Damon is an emotionally crippled golfer, and Will Smith is his guardian angel caddy in The Legend of Bagger Vance, directed by Robert Redford. This Depression-era fable unfolds in Savannah, Georgia, where Damon's Ranulph Juna is a once great golfer who returned from World War I a broken man. Juna hasn't picked up a club in years, but now he's going to take on golfing legends Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen in a match arranged by his ex-fiancée Adele, played by Charlize Theron.
Look in my eyes and tell me what you see.
Determination, pure determination.
Panic, Adele, pure panic. I'm 8 strokes behind the 2 greatest golfers in the history of the sport. They've never blown a lead in their lives, and I'm gonna win. You know why?
Panic?
That's right.
We get a lot of speeches about golf as a metaphor for life, as when Juna gets a pep talk from a 10-year-old boy who idolizes him.
This is the only game I know you can call a penalty on yourself. If you're honest, I wish most people were. There just ain't no other game like it.
Adding some much-needed humor to the mix is Bruce McGill as the free-spirited Walter Hagen, who regards Juna as a fellow cynic.
How'd you like to go on tour with me? We'd have some good matches. I'd expect to win, of course. But then we'd split the money 70-30 afterwards. You get the 30. What can I get for you?
Like The Natural, which gave Redford one of his career-defining roles, The Legend of Bagger Vance is a sun-dappled myth about a blonde sports god who resurfaces after a decade to give the game one more try and also to reclaim a lost love. But even fairy tales have to make sense. Bagger's character is no more developed than Tinkerbell. He appears out of nowhere, spouts cut-rate Zen philosophy, and then just disappears. And Redford's Savannah, circa 1931, is kind of a dream world where race really isn't an issue and the streets are lined with mint-condition cars. Given the talents of the players involved, I found The Legend of Bagger Vance to be one of the biggest disappointments of this year.
I love this film.
I just stunned to hear that.
Loved it. It just absolutely got under my skin and into my mind. It created a spell. It's not just about golf. It's about games. It's about learning to do something because you love to do it and because it's fun instead of having to do it or being made to do it or wanting to make money doing it. It's about sportsmanship. I love the way that Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen worked with this guy in terms of their example, in the way that they respect the game. I don't play golf. It's not about golf. It's about life. I felt that
a lot of golfing scenes for a movie that's not about golf.
Well, the caddy is, we don't want an explanation. He comes out of nowhere. He goes into nowhere. It's not about race. The cars are mint condition because they were new in 1931.
Well, who can afford the new cars in the middle of the Depression? I mean, they
the same people who go to a $10,000 invitational golf tournament. There was a lot of money around in 1931.
But the whole setup with that golf tournament was we're going to save the town because it's financially depressed right now.
No, they're not going to save the town. They're going to save the golf course because her father committed suicide, so this is going to save the golf course, not the town. But
it's going to inject the town with an infusion of financial
fable. This isn't about whether it's a realistic portrait of the Depression.
What does Bagger Vance say to Matt Damon's character that's so profound? He sounds like he's just reading from a fortune cookie to him all the time.
He says that you can't win the game of golf, you can only play the game of golf. And at the end, it's a kind of a metaphor for life. It really is.
I think Chevy Chase's character gave better advice on golf to Noonan in Caddyshack.
Well, I think you've defined the poles of golf movies. Okay, our next movie is this year's Iranian entry for the Oscars, and it has a stark simplicity that's surprisingly powerful. It's named A Time for Drunken Horses, and it's about 3 poor Kurdish children who live near the border with Iraq. A brother and sister care for their crippled brother, a dwarf, who will die without an operation, and as they're trucked from their village to do cheap child labor in town, they tenderly cherish the little fellow. The truck is stopped by border patrols, and they're separated from their village and from their family. They're on their own. Life is desperate as they join smugglers who are moving truck tires into Iraq. The sister agrees to marry into a family if it will provide an operation for her brother.
عليكم السلام وين يتجوز؟
كتر أنا بشاتون
نيواني منو بكارج كراتون
شكار خيره؟
'Adun bă, bani rojin, uite pe saman cât de bu.
Poți vei roji? What's wrong, Tano?
I'm going to find it hard to forget the eyes of that desperate little brother jammed into a saddlebag near the end of this movie. The title of A Time for Drunken Horses refers to the practice of spiking the mules' water with vodka to keep them going in the icy mountain passes. The movie is in the tradition of neo-realism. The actors play characters much like themselves, creating a portrait of an ethnic minority that lives in Iran, Iraq, Greece, and Turkey, and is treated everywhere as outsiders. This kind of movie gives you images to go with the headlines. They say hard times produce great art, and recent Iranian films like this one prove that it's true.
This truly is a great movie, and you know, we know a little bit about the Kurds. You read about them, you go, okay, those are those nomads who are being oppressed, but this movie really brings us into their lives. And these people are so oppressed and so poor, it's like you're watching something in the 19th century. Just to get food every day, just to get enough water to drink to live, they have to, you know, smuggle things, and kids have to work. It's not like, well, I want to get a job because I want to help out the family. If they don't work, they're not going to survive. And the children in this movie are so good, and you care about them so much. You mentioned the little boy who's going to die. I don't know if he says a word during the entire movie, but he's so moving and so affecting, and you're really brought inside a new world.
He sees everything, and they carry him around with them, and they love him, and he's really... It's all they have is this brother that they want to take care of. They have nothing else, and they only have such desperation that she's even willing, basically, to sell herself to help this little brother that she loves so much. And it's all done in the very edge of survival. When they're up there in the cold, you're thinking they're giving vodka to the mules, but there's no vodka for anyone else.
Exactly.
And it's very cold in there. You see, you're kind of shocked to realize that if you're in Iran, Iraq is actually a better place to be. They're more prosperous over there.
Amazingly enough. It's a profound piece of work, I thought. Okay, coming up next, a father and son reach across time to stop a killer in my video pick of the week.
Something we did changed the past.
Ebert and Roeper in the Movies Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
A New York cop reaches into his past to save his parents with a little help from the Northern Lights and the 1969 New York Mets in Frequency, a thriller with a Twilight Zone touch. Jim Caviezel plays John Sullivan, a troubled cop whose father, played by Dennis Quaid, died in a warehouse blaze in 1969. At least that's the way Sully remembers it, until a freaky fold in the atmosphere enables him to communicate with his dad across 30 years of time.
Hey, who the hell are you? What's going on?
Nothing's going on.
Oh my God. You brought the desk. I can see it.
Now Sully's firefighter dad is able to survive that blaze, but that sets off a chain reaction of events that gives Sully a whole new set of memories and problems.
You imagine the odds of us digging up a Nightingale murder? She makes 10.
10? No, I remember this case. It was 3. He killed 3 women.
What are you talking? You know better than anybody, John. You looked at these files 1,000 times.
Frequency is a creative blend of science fiction and murder mystery as a father and son, separated by 3 decades, team up to stop a killer before he destroys the entire family. Now, as you might expect with a story in which someone in 1969 can talk to his son in 1999, you just have to accept this miracle at face value. At one point, the 36-year-old Sully even talks to his 6-year-old self. But Frequency hums along at a furious pace, and it opens some thought-provoking doors into the worlds of chance and fate, and it's my video pick of the week.
Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. 2 thumbs down, way down, way down, way down for Charlie's Angels, which is eye candy for the blind. 2 thumbs down for Loving Jezebel, although I like Hill Harper's performance more than Richard did. 2 more thumbs down for Bootmen, the loudest movie ever made about tap dancing. A major split on The Legend of Bagger Vance. Richard thought it was hokey. I loved its tone, mood, and philosophy. And finally, 2 thumbs up for A Time for Drunken Horses, a heartbreaking drama from Iran. And so, as far as I'm concerned, The Legend of Bagger Vance is a really good film, especially for grown-ups who care about this stuff.
I cannot go along with you on that, but more than that, I have to stress, if you're having the urge to see Charlie's Angels, sit still until that urge goes away, and you'll thank me for it later.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice.
Okay, remember, you can hear our reviews at ebert-roper-movies.com and read us in print at suntimes.com. Next week, more new movies, including the comedy Little Nicky, starring Adam Sandler and Harvey Keitel.
Release your evil.
And also the sci-fi thriller The Sixth Day, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.